If you enjoy these videos, please like and subscribe.
So what you see here is my roster for the Civil War games. We went ahead and selected 10 characters, and we will be using those 10 for the next 3 games. For scenario 1, I decided to start with Ironman because he's kind of the focal point of the story. I then put in Kingpin, Toad, Bullseye, and Crossbones to fill out my 15 points. This allows me to bring the Criminal Syndicate, which I thought was a very solid choice for the first game, especially against the Avengers. For my team tactic cards, I'm bringing Cruelty, Heavy Firepower, All According to Plan, All You've Got, and Tactical Analysis. 2 of these cards belong specifically to the Criminal Syndicate, and I will explain them if they come up. The others are just utility cards that I'm hoping will help bolster my forces. I don't have the heaviest hitting characters in this squad, so I need to be able to compensate in certain ways, and I'm hoping the cards I chose will help me do that. And so with that, let's see how this all works out.
So this is the 10 characters I've chosen for the Civil War games. For today's game, I'm bringing Captain America, Hawkeye, Black Widow, Wolverine, and Okoye. I wanted to do Avengers. It's just a nice nod to the story. I knew Andy was bringing Iron Man, so I wanted to make sure that the Avengers were one of my options. For my team tactic cards, I have Avengers Assemble, 1-2 Punch, Escort to Safety, Reversal, and Professionals. Avengers Assemble is always a good idea when you're playing Avengers. It's easy to use, as is 1-2 Punch. Escort to Safety and Reversal might change some of my bad luck if I run into any. Professionals is kind of one of those that I'm just really wanting to pull it off. I love Hawkeye and Black Widow. I've never been able to pull this card off before, so I'm really hoping I can in this game.
All right, so Criminal Syndicate, the registration enforcers have round 1, priority. And I'm going to start out with Crossbones. Not too many options for a guy who moves as slow as he does. My thought here was, let's grab the spy, contest him, try to interact with him and get another point, and then grab that evidence. My plan failed, so I'm just going to contest that spy. I'm sure that's exactly what I wanted to happen all along, though.
Okay, so I was regretting my deployment decisions very early on. I put Black Widow and Hawkeye together on the other side, and I was realizing I really should have had Black Widow over here. But I move Hawkeye. I'm sorry, Captain America. Roll for it. Don't get anything.
You're just interacting it. You're
already contesting. Oh, that's right. I'm already contesting it.
All right, so that was one thing I wanted to see her move. But I want to see more of her team moves before I do a couple different things myself. So I use Toad. He's kind of a gimme, especially with his reach of range 2 to grab things. So I use his tongue to grab that evidence, knowing full well she won't want to hold on to it now that it's put on his tongue.
That's a really good plan, Andy.
Kind of.
Okay, so Black Widow had already been moved up a little bit because of the whatever I picked for the game.
Yes, your renegade ability.
So that's why she's up there a little bit. Hawkeye moves up to get into better position. And Andy, what was the purpose of the school bus? What significance did it have?
If you've ever read the 2006 Civil War story, the original comic that the movie and everything was based off of, it involves a school and a school bus and a villain named Nitro. And we'll leave it at that. But it's a pretty horrific beginning. And that was kind of our nod to the story there.
And our school bus is empty. So, Wolverine. And he's just moving up there. And he does get 2 power for that.
So now Kingpin is up. He's going to strut his way up as well. Luckily, he does have a bigger base. I barely get in range of the spy there. So, but I do. I'm contesting the spy. And because of Criminal Syndicate, right now I am winning.
Which I had forgotten that was Criminal Syndicate's ability. So I thought everything was just fine and dandy, and it wasn't.
I would like to say I warned her before the beginning of the game when I was putting together this list. So.
I honestly don't remember that. I must have not been paying attention.
But it's like, why should I remind you right at the beginning of the game when it totally would affect how things go? She's told me not to do that in the past, so I was using that rule. All right, so you ended up getting power for that spy right there. And now it's Ironman. And I'm going to try to pull something off and see if it works. Grab that evidence because I need it at this point. Obviously, I'm not in range to contest the spy now. And I am, right now, winning it. But if she gets a Koye up, I'm in trouble.
Okay, so there's a Koye coming up there to help her friend Wolverine.
And that's actually exactly what I wanted to happen. My special rule for this game was if at any point during one point of the game, if someone stops within range 3 of a character, I can move up a character or that character within range 1. Allowed me to get up there, allowed me to actually win that spy. So I have 2 of the spies right now. And I have more evidence, which gives me an early lead of 7 Nikki has 2 points. All right, round 2. I have priority. So, I immediately regret the way I started this round out. I'm going to attack Okoye with Kingpin using the oh-so-subtle headbutt. I think my thought here was I knew she could bodyguard, so why bother attacking Wolverine? I probably should still have attacked him. Forced her to use at least one of the bodyguards, but that was an ineffectual attack. I don't even think Kingpin is trying anymore. So then he throws a taco truck at Wolverine, and I believe I get salsa in his eye. Because, I just did 3 points of damage to you.
Yeah, that was pretty effective, and that salsa really hurt.
That was hot. That was maybe ghost pepper.
Okay, so moving Black Widow over there where she can pick up the evidence. I'm very frightened for Black Widow over here, wishing she was on the opposite side where Captain America was, and Captain America was on this side, but mistakes were made. So, strike. See what we can do. You never know.
It's a really good attack against him, though, because it's energy, and I have 1 die due to my holding the spot.
It was. I didn't get very far with it, but it was worth a shot.
You could have totally done a lot of damage there.
I could.
Yeah. So now I'm going to use Repulsor Blast on Wolverine. So no more messing around. It's time to throw some Repulsor Blast into Wolverine's face. Again, you're contesting that spy, so you're rolling 1 less die. And bam. How you like me now?
Not very much.
No, not really. So then she pulled a me. I was set to do a really awesome, good dice attack. And then somebody decided I'm going to bodyguard. So that was going to be an AI-enhanced repulsor. Oh, it is an AI-enhanced repulsor blast. But now Okoye's taking it.
Yeah, do you know how many times you've thwarted my plans, Andy, with Okoye? So...
Not enough, evidently.
How do you like it?
It sucks. But luckily, she's only a 4 stamina character, so I do the push, because that happens before damage, and she's dazed.
Okoye is such a hero.
She is. But if she's a hero, why is she fighting for you? Oh, snap.
All right, using Hookshot to move Hawkeye up a little bit. And I had accidentally shoved Crossbones back, so moving him up a little bit.
Was that an accident?
Where he was. Yes, you were standing there. You saw it.
That looked pretty hateful to me.
Okay, so stop talking. And using energy, arrow shot. Woo, pretty good.
Yeah, that was a solid thunk to the chest. You would have nerved to pain and would not have done anything there, so I'm dazed.
Okay, and I'm using Avengers as symbol just to move Hawkeye and Black Widow in a little bit better position. I decide to move Hawkeye up on the bus because I think maybe he might need to do some... Oops, sorry.
Well, you can't have nice things.
Maybe he might need to help out in the middle. I don't know what I'm doing at this point, but I thought it was a good idea.
It looks very epic.
Yes, he looks good up there. So he's going to attack Bullseye with his second action. Not as great.
Now, I should have been rolling 3 dice, and she chooses one that goes blank. I was thinking spy still. But again, I don't think that would have made any difference there. So now I'm going to do a hit and run. I want to get closer to that objective. And honestly, I didn't care about hurting Hawkeye as much right now. I was wanting to save my power, but again, I needed to get next to that objective. So, because he's holding evidence, I do get to change one of those to a blank. So I did 1 point, which is what I needed to do what I wanted to do next. So I'm within 1. I can definitely see the Black Widow now. And I'm going to use heavy firepower because Nikki was going to use that on me last game, and fair play.
Don't you think that's a little extreme, Andy?
There is no such thing as extreme with Black Widow.
I just feel like, overkill a little bit.
Not enough knife. So I'm just throwing knives like crazy now. And not very well, though. She does have evidence. I don't have to make her change one to blank because that would have been a benefit to her. So now she counter-strikes me. You need wilds or crits to do damage, right?
Yes. And nothing.
Nothing. So now I'm using cruelty, which is weirdly enough a mystic attack, which does no good when it comes to the dice here with the evidence or being on the spy. Hit her for 2. She blocks it all, but luckily I didn't care because I have one more trick, which is I never miss. She was on 1 stamina. I do 1 damage, and she's dazed.
All right, Wolverine versus Iron Man, Berserker Barrage. Wow, that wasn't very good.
That's why they call me Iron Man.
Okay. Luckily, I have a lot of power, so I do it again, and that one was way better.
That's why they call me Wet Tissue Paper Man. Man, yeah, you just went right through my armor on that one. Ugh. So drop the evidence and you grabbed it.
Yes, I did.
Luckily, Kingpin still counts as 2. Alright, so now this was a sheer desperation move for points. I'm going to go grab that spy with Toad, knowing that Captain America will whoop my butt, most likely, but I had to take the chance.
Your slimy butt.
My slimy butt.
All right, Captain America picks up the evidence and then focuses his attention on Toad. So this is a strike.
Now, I'm rolling too many dice here, and I apologize. But since I do have that evidence, she does change one to a blank.
And 1 damage.
1 damage. 2. You did 2.
2.
So that's the end of the round. I have all 3 spies. I lucked out there because again, Captain America totally could have creamed Toad there. So I end up scoring 6 points for having all the spies. Nikki gets the evidence points, so she gets 2 to bring us to, I think it's 13 to 5. Yep. All right, round 3. So I'm a little upset about what you just did to Iron Man, and you gave him plenty of power. So this seems like a good time for Unibeam. And luckily, they were both in range and targetable. So, Unibeam. And I really want Wolverine out, so I'm using the AI. No bodyguard this time. And we have one burnt Wolverine. Extra toasty. But Okoye evidently, he took all the damage because Okoye is like,
Yeah, she's a smart girl. She's getting out of the way.
But I did hit her pretty good with a repulsor blast. There's your Dora Milaje reroll. And that is one satisfying round. Or at least turn, not round.
Okay, so Hawkeye, he's going to use Hook Arrow to move down there.
I can never maneuver him like you do.
1-2 punch with Black Widow.
Speaking of overkill.
I was like, I said, oh, that was pretty good. I was like being sentimental and really wanted Hawkeye and Black Widow over there together, and I was going to try to use their card, and I should never do that. I should never base everything on a card.
She's doing what I like to do.
I know, I was making like sentimental decisions.
Cinematic, not sentimental necessarily.
Okay, so now he's going to go after Crossbones.
My one awesome die there. I feel like I'm the Hulk here. But I do have inert to pain, so I only take 2 damage from that.
That's not too bad.
No, I needed him alive, so I was happy that he only took 2. I mean, you one-shot him last time. Alright, so I can't take any chances. Crossbones against Black Widow. I'm using Overpower with Haymaker. And, yeah, one less die for your defense. So that super solid hit. That crunched. I mean, we all just cringed when we heard that crunch. And I pick up the evidence there.
Okay, Captain America.
Speaking of splat.
Yeah, I'm going to use my shield to splat you in the face.
Can only be an improvement for Toad.
Okay, 3, you blocked 1. I think, yeah, I changed that, or you changed it to a blank. That was your hand.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I throw him into that truck right there.
That's from Shield Slam.
And he is dazed.
Yep. I'd say that was a good attack. So now Kingpin is just going to strut forward like a peacock, and that's it.
And Okoye, there's really nothing else she can do but go get that evidence over there by Captain America. So that's pretty much game. You have beaten me 17-10, but this is only game 1, Andy.
Yes, this is to be continued.
And after the end of our narrative, we have our after action report, but it's going to be a little different. We're going to talk about why we love the Civil War story, the comic, the movie, and the game a little bit too.
Yep, lots of things. So we invite you to stick around. This was a short game, but hope you'll enjoy this commentary. And so our first special scenario game is done. The first Civil War scenario. That was very interesting.
Yeah, I kind of got my butt kicked.
Yeah, it was. It definitely played in favor of the Criminal Syndicate for that particular mission. Again, that wasn't the intention. When we were putting together these teams, I wanted to put together a team kind of reminiscent of the Civil War storyline. Obviously, Iron Man had to be there. In fact, we decided that pretty much right up front, that you were going to have Captain America. I was going to have Iron Man as a nod to again to the original 2006 storyline. But I kind of wanted to show that there was a side of the story where the Thunderbolts were introduced in that story, and these are the Thunderbolts that were all criminals. They were kind of Marvel's version of the Suicide Squad. And that actually caused a lot of problems because they were using villains to police the heroes who were the renegades in the Superhuman Registration Act. I didn't really feel like the Cabal fit that, but the Criminal Syndicate actually includes almost all the characters that were in the storyline, which is why ultimately I chose them as one of my two main forces for my squads.
Well, it worked for you.
Yeah, we were looking at the other two scenarios, and it's not going to work as well for me. So I guess it's good. I got good use out of it in this game because I don't think that's going to happen later on. Scenario 2 and Scenario 3 are quite a bit more difficult.
And hopefully I'll be a little bit better prepared.
Yeah, that's hard. Again, we've never seen this scenario. We've never seen anybody play it. If somebody else has done a YouTube video on it, we didn't see it. And we totally would have watched it just to see how the scenario plays out. So if you are one of those people who played it and showed it, we apologize. We totally would have watched it. But
I think this one was one of the more simple. The first one seemed less
complicated, maybe.
Yeah, not that the other two are that complicated, but this one was definitely the simplest.
This one seems like it wants you to get through it fast. It's 15 points. You score a lot of points very easily.
If especially you were dominating the
spies.
So you were getting all those points.
Yeah.
So yeah, that made it a fast game.
So one of the things we've been doing since we found out, A, we were going to be playing this, but B, that it was being released by Atomic Mass Games, I went back and I read the story Civil War, and Nikki read it for the first time. Now, obviously, she has seen the movie with me numerous times, but the book itself, the story, is significantly different. There's a lot of nods to what happens in the story in the MCU movie, but overall, that story is very unique. And there's a lot of reasons why it's my favorite, but first of all, what were your thoughts about this story, Nikki?
I thought it was really good. I mean, it did remind me, there definitely were parts of the comic that the movie definitely, nodded to. Even the part where in the movie Captain America says language, and in the comic he says something about watch your potty mouth or something, which I thought was hilarious. But it was really enjoyable because, like we said in our last video, it was hard to distinguish whose side you were on, really. Both sides had their points. Both sides were doing things like, Iron Man and that side recruiting criminals to bring in Captain America and the rest of his team. That was kind of awful. So, but you could also understand Iron Man's point of view. So it's kind of like life, Sometimes there is no real right and wrong. You just have to figure it out.
Yeah. So for this timeline in this the original story universe, Nick Fury is gone, and that's a story in itself. But Maria Hill is in charge of S.H.I.E.L.D., and she has this great part with Captain America near the beginning where they're talking about the Registration Act and how he is going to be used to enforce it, and he basically says, no way. And she kind of counters with, people who don't follow a law become criminals. So what does that make you if you're not willing to follow this law? Because it is a law. It got ratified. And again, I totally encourage everyone to read the story. It's a really fun, good story. It's very a big nod to its own time period. So 2006, with reality TV. That actually plays very importantly into the first part of the story. And, you know, we were also trying to keep the vibe of that where there is no good guy or bad guy. We're not playing good guy or bad guys. Yes, I play the Criminal Syndicate, but I'm trying to, in a story, portray them as a means to an end, and not that they are the right creatures or people or what have you to be doing the enforcement. They're just what's left. If all the superheroes are breaking the law, who do you get to fight the superheroes? Well, you get somebody on their same power level, but they just so happen to be criminals. So it gets into that really gray area of what's right and what's wrong. And that's what we love. And again, that's what we're trying to do with our own little story here.
Yeah. And how do you, you know, in Iron Man's point of view, he's trying to do the right thing. Do you do bad things to get to the right thing? So that's always really interesting.
Do two wrongs make a right.
Do two wrongs make a right. And it's always interesting when you, and not that Iron Man's the villain, but personally I've always thought it's interesting when you kind of sympathize with the villain a little bit. Mm-hmm. So that makes a really good villain, more than just one dimension. So yeah, it's really good. So I'm really glad I'm reading it. Andy's like, you've got to go back and read all my favorite stories now. So that's probably what I'm going to be doing all summer, is reading all of Andy's favorite comics.
Yes. We're getting them digitally now, so I don't want to have to dig everything out of the attic.
I've always been, you know, a fan of superheroes and, you know, stories like that, Star Wars and stuff. But I've never really been a comic book reader, which I don't know why. It just nobody introduced me to it.
It was just seen as nerdy or whatever, and now there have been a lot of great stories out there. I mean, sometimes they were just drawing things because they were trying to hit a target audience, but in that you will find some truly good storylines, and we're going to talk more about those in future. That's one of our podcasts we have coming up in the future. We're not quite ready to do that one yet, but there's a lot of really great storylines. And as far as this one goes, I won't spoil the ending. I'm pretty sure most people have an idea of how this ends, but the way they do it, I thought was really phenomenal. Really nice, and it's like, how do you end the Civil War? You're going to have to choose somebody who's right and who's wrong. And they're like, well, hold my beer. And they gave us a completely unique ending in that sense. So I highly recommend you read the story. So getting back to the games,
yep,
we have Scenario 2 coming up next. We did something unique this time. We actually, before we started out, we decided we're going to do things the way you're supposed to, and we chose 10 people. And these 10 people will be used throughout the rest of the storyline. So, can you tell me a little bit about the rest of your choices? Not specifically who they are, but what they are, I guess, or what kind of team affiliation you have going.
I basically just did a mix-up of the X-Men and the Avengers, because some of the X-Men can be Avengers, and I don't know, it just kind of made sense. And I haven't played Avengers a lot. When we first started playing, I did a little bit. They seem pretty straightforward, but I'm used to playing X-Men. Like, I love playing X-Men, so it just made sense that I would have some people that I was used to playing as well. And then, yeah.
And then you have the Enchantress.
Oh, that's right. I did bring in the Enchantress because I love her.
Yes. But it makes sense because my second faction is the Defenders. And before anyone shouts, no, Doctor Strange did not go on the registration side. He actually did not involve himself at all in the conflict on purpose. However, I was kind of going over the factions we had remaining. I didn't want to turn this into an all-out evil thing, so the Black Order, the Cabal, they weren't even an option. The Guardians, I just didn't feel like it made a whole lot of sense, especially because in our first prelude, you were rescuing two of the Guardians. In fact, I think you have Drax in your list right now.
Oh, I think you're right. I might have switched him out for somebody, but I love the Guardians. I really,
you did, that's right. You have Storm now.
Yeah, I wanted to bring some Guardians in, but I ultimately decided to go with X-Men.
Yeah, so like I said, I was trying to figure out, ultimately, Defenders was the best option I had. In the future, there will probably be better options, but that's what I'm going with. I still think it fits our storyline, so that works. And we're looking forward to trying the second one out. I hope you enjoyed this one. This was one we were very much looking forward to, especially after, again, as we stated in the last video, a lot of people were asking us, are you going to do it? And yeah, we were very much looking forward to doing it, very excited about doing it, and I hope we did justice.
Yeah, me too. And it was, it's one of those things that's gotten us kind of like, ooh, excited about, like, kind of reinvigorated us a little bit. So
yeah, so this actually is our 20th video, and that was a great way to do 20th video. We were a little bit concerned about the drought with the models coming out. Here in the U.S., we're not getting anything in April. So the next time we're expecting to see new models is May. So we were looking for new and interesting things to be able to present you all. And luckily, this provided us with at least 3 or 4 different videos that we could present and hopefully give you a fun and unique experience without seeing the same thing over and over again.
Absolutely. And as always, if anybody has any suggestions, anything they'd like to see us play, we're always looking for ideas, and always look forward to comments, whether it's to tell us how we could be better or to tell us we're doing great. Either one.
Yeah, so with that, part 3 will be coming up next Friday. We won't be doing the Wednesday release anymore. That was just a one-time thing to get things started so we could have this video release on a Friday. The rest of them will come out on Fridays. So for the next 2 weeks, you have Scenario 2 and then finally Scenario 3. And I'm thinking right now, and it really just depends on what happens with Scenario 2 and 3, there probably will be a follow-up that kind of wraps the whole story up. I have 2 different paths in my mind right now. One, if you basically dominate the next 2 games, or if I end up winning overall.
Yeah, I think that's something I keep forgetting to say that, but we play the game before the stories are written. So
yeah.
The stories do not dictate how our game goes.
No.
It follows the way the gods will it.
So. Right. So I've got ideas for how each one will play out depending on who wins. Now that's not fully fleshed out because honestly, as we play, it writes the story for us. And that's been so true with the last 2 games. There are certain things that happen in our games that we never would have kind of come up on our own. So yeah, these we don't have this written in stone. We don't know who's going to win. We are both going to try to beat each other as much as we can, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I look forward to our next game.
Very much so. Until then, we will see you in 1 week with Civil War Part 3.